Hello. Today what I'm doing is I'm out here for the night and I'm camping with my friend Chris. What we're doing is we're going to be setting up a double setup of the REFLEX Survival Shelter. I designed this to be an emergency survival shelter, and it was inspired by the emergency shelter that I teach my students in my wilderness survival courses. Now this one here we're just going to use for camping tonight. We're not going to be using a fire. We brought out a sleeping bag that is good for the temperatures that it's supposed to be tonight, so we will be warm. This here, I wanted to show that you can use this for more than just an emergency. You can use it as a camp tarp as well. I'm going to place a link where you can click to check out a video and see the efficiency of this shelter as an emergency shelter, but also the setup. So I'm just going to set this up. Chris is going to set his up, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like with both of them set up. So I have mine all set up, and we have them down low because if I actually was in a survival situation, I'd have a long fire out front, and if I have it low, that's going to trap that radiant heat and roll right down on me. But what I'm doing today, and Chris is doing the same, we're going to be using camp cots. That there is just going to replace a bush bed, because I would have to put a raised bed on this. That can be a bunch of brush, it can be multiple different materials, and just get yourself up off the ground to fight conduction from the ground, the cold. So we're just going to be using a camp cot with a sleep pad since we're camping. But this is my setup. I've actually got the middle tied up, so it gives me a little bit more room, but it doesn't matter. It just means that the tarp may lay on you a little bit. These are also a breathable material. So this here is Chris's setup. As you see, the back is not staked down right to the ground in the middle, but he's going to be up above that, so he's not worried about it. What's happening is those little bushes are actually holding the tarp up a little bit. That's all it is. It is still tight. That's going to be his setup for the night. And this here is going to be my setup for the night. Now we're going to put the camp cots in, put our gear in, and so on, and I'll show you the room that we actually have when all set up. So Chris isn't tied up in the back. Like I said, it's normal for the tarp to be low on you because he's a good 8 inches off the ground, and that's what it's going to look like when you have a raised bed. So right there you can see he's back a good, no way the rain's going to get him if it did rain. You can see how much room I have in here by tying up the back. Like I said, I just have a little bit more room to move around. If you have it tied up, you can move around without it touching you. If you don't, it just means the tarp's going to touch you. It doesn't matter to me. But as you see, I have lots of room for my gear as well. So I can put my cot in here or a bush bed, plus a place to keep my gear so it doesn't get wet during a storm. So I can keep gear in here, plus myself in a storm, especially in an emergency, because if it's storming out, you want to keep yourself and your gear dry. Now, I put this tarp right here. That way, I've got my gear down there. I'll put my sleep pad right on top of this, and then my sleeping bag, and I'm all set. So this tarp has 3 tie-out points right in the center of this tarp. Now I have this one here tied out and that one. This is my head area. This just keeps it up out of my face. Now that does bother some people if it's laying close to their face. Myself, I've never worried about that, but you do have that option with these 3 tie-outs. So you can see how that lifts that up. Down on the bottom by my feet, I didn't bother putting the other tie-out out, but it gives me a lot of room in there. And the tarp is not close to my face at all. So with Chris's, what we did is we tied to the tie-out right there, came up, went over top of this stick, and staked down to the ground. That holds his up here in the center. Not sure if you can hear that, but there's a huge pack of coyotes making a lot of noise out there. That's the reality of sleeping out in the bush. So last night was a cool night. It dropped down probably about -10 Celsius. I was warm in the sleeping bag. The shelter stops the wind from all directions but the front. Although I'm in a sleeping bag, so the sleeping bag stops wind as well. So this here for camping, I've slept under many tarps with the front wide open like this. And this here just provides you with a cover if it did snow or rain. But lightweight, compact, and can make a nice camping tarp. So I wanted to share how I use this for camping. There's many different setups like I mentioned. And the coyotes, we heard them last night, but they did not come into camp, which is a good thing. But safety's always first. And like I said, if the tarp lays against my back and such, I'm not worried. But it is a breathable material, although you do not want the tarp in your face. That's a no-no with any kind of tarp. You do not want it close to your face. That's why we tied these up and such. Just remember that to be safe whenever you use any kind of setup for camping. So I want to thank you for watching. Take care. All the best. Bye. And Chris says bye. Take care all.